It's metal for the masses. It's the only place that plays it harder, faster, and louder than anybody else on live365.com. My name is JC. You're here with me in the place to be. I am joined by Symphony of Heaven. Gentlemen,
Woo!
introduce yourselves. Let's start with the man in the Sabaton shirt.
The man in the Sabaton shirt. I am Pathos, the founder of Symphony of Heaven, and I do vocals and rhythm guitar and a large majority songwriting and ideas and things like that. It's kind of I began it and kind of my baby, and everybody's come along.
Yep. And I'm Asaph. I'm the drummer. I only do that because I'm talentless.
Wait, so what are you saying about drummers, sir? Are you just saying that?
Yes, we are the knuckle dragging Neanderthals that everyone believes us to be. Some are slightly more evolved than others.
Some are hairier than others. Ours is pretty hairy.
Some are hairier than others.
Yeah.
Some have.
So what? So are you saying there's a hard R word in there somewhere?
Well, hang on. I didn't imply that, or did I? Well, that's for the imagination.
Gotcha. So the helmet is not for show.
No.
Gotcha.
This week.
It's a warning. I understand. All right. Gentlemen, of course, we've had you here on this show before. It's great to see you guys again. You guys are coming out with a new fucking album, and it is I've had the honor of getting to listen to it just before this show, actually, and I'm here to say, wow, it's like you guys are a whole different band.
Thank you. That's exactly what. Oh, the actual charger for these.
Yeah, that's because we are. That's the thing. The irony of it.
Oh my god.
Yeah, pretty well. As far as like the actual music and stuff like that, it's as someone described it yesterday, a quantum leap forward from what the band has done in the past. It's definitely a maturing aspect to it. An intentionality, I think, is a good word for it.
Yeah.
Very intentional on a lot of things, you know. So, but Mason, anything else to say about it? Because before I just start taking off talking.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a totally different. It is like a leap forward, like from the last thing we did back in 2021. It's been 3 years, and it feels like musically we've evolved way further than 3 years. I don't know
because I remember actually just telling somebody about you guys about a couple days ago, and I was like, yeah, I'm interviewing this band on Sunday. They were like, oh, you interview bands? I was like, yeah, I shoot my podcast to people that will never tune into it because it's just random people off the street. You know how it goes.
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, check out these guys' music. And I just showed them Soul Wretch. And that was, I just remember the face that the person had. It was just like, man, this makes me want to murder my family. And I'm like,
in a good way, or
I don't know, man. Definitely.
You know what I mean? Is it the metal attitude or the?
I think it was that this person was definitely more on like the Katy Perry, Taylor Swift side of the spectrum.
I get what they're saying.
Puppies and kittens, like killing.
Exactly right. It's like, oh man, it sounds angry. It sounds mean.
Gotcha. Okay.
Sounds violent. Sounds
not like I want to open this pit up. Like
right. No, like
they didn't quite understand how to feel.
They did not. And murder was the first thing they went to, and I was like, well, thanks. I'll let them know. And I knew I was like, I gotta let these guys know that's the interaction I had.
That's going in quotes. That's going in quotations for promotion.
Gotcha.
Symphony of Heaven makes me want to. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
there it is.
Not my words, theirs.
No fashion. Symphony of Heaven.
Symphony of Heaven. Murder.
Yeah, murder. It is to die for.
Wow. Yeah, there we go. There we see how we spun that right there. It's perfect. We could sell that. We could just, there you go.
Yep.
Bang,
5
put
out
it
of
on,
5, anonymous.
put it on a shirt.
There we
That's it.
go. There we
But
go.
yeah,
Put it
no,
right,
I just
right behind Too Scary for Glenn Benton.
I just remember yeah, showing him Soul Wretch and hearing that, and to now just listening to this, and I'm like, you know what? I think that this might vibe with more people. You know, I think that it no offense when I say that, by the way.
No,
It's
yeah.
just, I think that this will come across as not making people want to murder their family, as this one person put it that I showed your music to.
Small steps.
Small step, right. Small steps in the right direction. Everything's fine now. We're good. The band's cleaned up. They're great. Symphony of Heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's definitely been you know, like I said, that maturing, not maturing as like people. I think we kind of came into this as pretty mature individuals, I believe, and I think that that's what's attributed to the maturing in the musical creation. Kind of like, okay, we know where we've fallen short before, and you know, everything's a step up. And you're never going to, I mean, very rarely does a band or an artist on their first record or two come out with something that's just an absolutely legendary thing. That's not a very common thing. So
No.
you work up in a natural progression to things. And I really think that, you know, I know I personally did, I know Asaph did, that we really sat there and like, okay, and got down in the nitty gritty and didn't just like, okay, we're going to take this and that's it. No, what else? Studying exactly what the artist that we like, and not just like listening to, but really like studying it intentionally, you know, to kind of like, okay, we know that, how do we create the same feeling that we get from the artist that we like, but still it's our own, you know, and that mindset towards it.
Gotcha. So this is as we've stated before, this is like a quantum leap from, you know, your first album to now. Let's kind of dive into it. What went into it, and why this this kind of drastic change in sound? Like what were you guys like? What were you guys channeling in this that kind of spat this out of yourselves?
Do you want to take that first, Mason?
I'll take it. Yeah, I don't feel it is. Well, it is a drastic sound, like change in sound quality. I feel like big time, more than anything. Like musically though, I feel like we tried to. I guess we kind of abandoned the. We didn't. We abandoned the black metal more, I'd say, than the melodic death metal. And this one, it's a little bit more melodic death metal. Obvious, like we're not going to completely abandon the other part of our sound going forward. It's just this time around, that's just kind of what came out. As far as like the sound quality went though, it's like, yeah, we got better at learning how to record. We ended up tracking drums with an E-kit rather than an acoustic kit, which was a big part of it. And then like Logan and I both got better as kind of engineers and producers, and that this is the end product, you know, with the little help of some mixing and mastering magic by Kevin Butler, who's worked with Hiniana before. Like I think, you know, that's musically, that's where I feel like it's more of a progression from the previous album. Like it's not like this drastic change from, say, like Death's spiritual healing to Death's human. You know what I mean? It's not like that big of a jump, in my opinion. Yeah.
Well, I think it's more of it's a distilling, if you can think of it that way. You know, you get, or like, you know, a French press, like you get that, like what we've been trying to do, and then we've tried to distill it down to more into a pure form. And I had a thought I wrote down, you know, considering the fact that every album up until this point, I have really been the only full-time guitar player, writer because we were writing the last album through, you know, 2019. Really, I had stuff from 2018 all the way to 2020. And at that point in time, I was still a one-man band for the most part, half of that time. And I had live members on guitar that would help out and things like that. But we really didn't start to delve into a full band working together and writing till after Maniacal, I believe. You had songs on the Ascension of Extinction that were written by Eero Tertsutin, our former alumni guitar player. But, you know, like he handled that song and like I handled the other songs. And then on Maniacal, for the most part, a lot of those were songs I had written all the parts for and then kind of divvied them out, handed out, and then we worked with Mason on that.
Yeah.
But coming into this album, over the course of that amount of time, we had guitar players that were more in a full-time writing type of place within the band where we were working together and really trying to think about not just me playing by myself and making it sound halfway decent, but like we can write for two guitars, two different things going on at the same time, meld them together, you know, and then with Mason coming along as much as he has, that was just another thing because the drums make the album, right? They really do. The drums set the genre, you know, but that was a big thing. And for me personally, there was two bands that jump out to me as far as guitar writing that I wanted to channel in a sense of song structure, and that was Keep of Callison and Winter Sun. The way the guitars work together and the style of riffing and song structure was something that I had listened to a lot, and I really enjoyed it. It's big, epic, cinematic, and so I was really listening to a lot of that at that time. And you know, that's a good description of kind of like going from listening to nothing but Dark Throne and Burzum, you know, to going to listening more towards that melodic death metal side. But also like Winter Sun does. Winter Sun has elements of black metal, death metal, thrash metal, all of it in there working together perfectly, or like in Sephirim. So, you know, that was kind of my thought process through this time period.
Now, a word that you used, cinematic. I like that word. I feel like that really does describe, you know, at least all the tracks that I got to listen to on here. It is definitely a change from what you say, like the black metal more towards the melodic metal. I being more of a fan of the melodic. So I mean, one of my favorite bands is Harakiri for the Sky. They're more of a melodic black metal band.
Yes,
Love them.
Yep.
But I'm very much a fan of that kind of genre, just because it's like you can still have that intense vocal style, and
Yes.
and I think that what makes it more palpable for people is to have that melodic, you know, instrumentation behind it. Because if you have intense vocal style and intense wall of sound, you know, it's like it's like going from I don't know, you just turned 21 and you're not starting off with like a light beer to get into alcohol. You're starting off on like 100-year-old whiskey. You know,
Yeah,
it's like, you know, you kind of got to ease into this, man. Like it's not you're gonna hurt yourself and go into this all wrong, and you might get the wrong idea.
Yeah, the black metal is for the mature. It really, I kind of feel that way sometimes. It was the last genre I got into.
Well, like as you said, it's more of like a distilled kind of I don't even know, but it's like a light beer versus like an 80-year-old you know, Pinot Noir or whatever you want to call it, you know what I mean?
Yes.
It's it's an acquired taste. You know, people who can just go from zero to black metal are few and far between.
Yes.
It's a special breed.
You look at bands like Wolfheart, that's a big inspiration for me personally. You know, that's what I liked about Wolfheart, because it was like mostly it's death metal, but they had black metal elements in the drums and then the guitar writing and stuff like that. There was just enough to kind of like, there we go. It's perfect. It's both the best of both worlds of what I love, and it's melodic, and it just gives you the feels, and it's sweeping and big, you know. So it's that there's a lot of bands that can do that now, and that's kind of where we are naturally landing. Plane, I guess.
So you had mentioned, you know, the bands that, you know, you were kind of channeling in this, and when you said the word like cinematic, it was funny because it's like one of the bands that like jumped to me, just that they have that same kind of like a cinematic sound, is which is why I was very curious to see like what bands were you channeling here, because I heard I don't know if you intended for this, I don't know if it even falls within the right realm, but like I hear like, at least in the instrumentation side of things, I heard like some Amon Amarth. Yeah,
Yep.
like
Yep.
that the you know, Amon Amarth, maybe some harder Grand Magus. These are, you know, bands that I know of that have a similar kind of cinematic sound to them.
Yeah.
They're not melodic black metal, they're not melodic death or whatever you want to call them. They just have a very similar vibe to them.
Yes.
But it's kind of a lot of that sound is what I heard with all of this, which I mean, hey, it's not any of the bands you mentioned, but it's still like bands that I like. So I would be like, hey, if you like this, you're definitely gonna love these. You're definitely gonna love this. I got hung up on track number 2. What
Archeia.
was it? Archeia. Yeah. I got, as soon as that one started playing, I was like, I love this.
That's Eero's song.
Yes, that one was
That's all him. Yep.
Yep. I mean, that one, Away with the Atheists. That one was a good one. Yeah, I the more that I listened to this album, the more I was like, I really don't know if I am going to be talking to the same band that I thought I was talking to.
That means a lot. It really does, because we've worked our butts off. It has really been a labor of love, but it's been a labor at the same time.
Yeah.
To not just call it good enough and like, no, go back, let it simmer. Does it still taste the same as it did a week ago?
All I would tell anybody, what I would tell anybody is like, you go back and you listen to Maniacal Entropic Discordium from 2021, and then you listen to this and you're just going to be like, did somebody die?
Actually, yes, that kind of, yeah.
Oh,
that's part of it.
Oh, I'm really sorry.
Oh, no, there's nothing to be sorry about. That's a discussion for another time, but that actually, there's part of that. Yes.
Jesus, my condolences.
No worries, man. No worries at all.
See, I'm just doing it for the bit here, and now I actually feel like an asshole. Guys, interview's over. I'll see you later.
No. If you want just about 15 seconds of backstory, my mom passed away back in 2021, and I wrote like 15.
This is even bad. This is even worse.
About 15 songs in like 2 weeks, and that's where a lot of these ideas came from. And there's still a bunch even for the next album. So that was really kind of the thing. It's like, okay, time for another album. You know, so
and it wasn't Logan. Remind me.
I mean, listen, man, what better therapy than music at that point?
Oh yeah, that's what it was. Exactly. Yeah, Mason.
Wasn't it? It was right before Maniacal came out. Like probably within 3 weeks or so, if I recall. You know,
Grandpa died right before the first album. Mom died right before the second album. So
and your
I can't even keep track.
Right?
Buddy.
Yep.
I'm sensing a theme here. And I'm going to have to ask you to stop writing music.
I know.
No kidding.
You don't think I haven't thought about that?
Right.
You know,
buddy, I know the name Sympathy. I can never say the word Symphony of Heaven. But I think God's trying to tell you something, my guy. It's like, you know what? It's like the symphony is stop.
It's brutal. Oh yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, it's been a long road and an interesting road in this band for a while to lead us to this point, to where it's like we just refuse to quit, and we're going to knock down every wall we can and conquer everything we can with a good product. Like, we got to be legit in it, you know, and so we work really hard. So
I've talked about the two tracks that I liked off of the album. And, you know, we've named both of those, but let's talk about the album itself. Let's talk about, you know, the name of the album that you guys are going with, and just go through every track.
Let's go. Right. Oh, you want me to start on that? Okay.
One of you, since it can't be me.
Okay, well, okay, so Ordo Aurum Archeia. That, I'm believing, is Latin, a little bit mixed with Greek, maybe. I can't remember. It's been so long.
Latin.
Yeah, it is investigating a group known as the Golden Order of the Almighty. And this group has a long and storied history. And many other bands have dealt with this topic before. And so we decided to investigate it and further it ourselves. So this album investigates a lot of, every song has to do, for the most part, with, quote, Grand Master of the Order down through history. Or someone who was before the Order, maybe an archetype that led up to that. And so we go each individual song. You know, Archeia is kind of like an overarching, from the beginning of the history of it, telling like this is what's coming, like this is what we're going to be talking about in this album. So and then Mason of Sword and Spear is next. You take that one.
So with Sword and Spear was based around St. George, the Dragon Slayer. As far as so it covers his little foray, mostly killing the dragon. You know, pretty standard metal thing. But you know, we're not power metal on that song by any means. That one, as far as like the songwriting process goes, that was the last one we wrote for the album, and man, that I'm probably the most proud of that one.
Yeah, I am too.
Just because we've been sitting on this for so long. We got originally this was going to be a 4-song EP, and then we decided, you know, let's change stuff a bit.
Full album, do it.
Yep. So we just recorded a few more songs, and that was one of them, and it turned out pretty good.
Yeah, I was pretty mad at myself for writing that, tracking it. I'm like, why did I do this?
Now we got to play it live.
Yeah, I'm like, why did I write this like this? Why did I write this hard? Like, here you go, Logan. This is what you've gotten yourself into here. So, so after Sword and Spear,
the
Hunter. So one of the grandmasters of the Golden Order of the Almighty is Abraham Van Helsing. Yes. So, and he has a long and storied history that most people are well aware of, and a storied history that some people might not be aware of.
Yep. He looked like Hugh Jackman. He killed Dracula.
He did. Yep, he did.
Surprisingly so.
So that's, that's the centerpiece of that song. Talks a lot about his adventures at that point in time. But there's a lot more to him that is sprinkled throughout the album now, albums to come, and the book that we have to go along with it. It's a very interesting history. So,
and after that one, after the Hunter is Serenity's Embrace, which is instrumental. That one was, once again, another one that we wrote kind of after the fact. That wasn't originally in the 4-song EP. That was kind of to spotlight our most recent members and just, get them acquainted with the band and the songwriting process and whatnot. And then, that was mostly to introduce those guys. And then
I would say that was also an excuse for me. If on the Dimmu Borgir album, Puritanical Euphoric Misanthropia, the very last song on that album I've loved. It's just an instrumental, and I've loved it. One of my favorite tracks ever. And there was a good excuse for me to kind of like, I can get this big bombastic sound that I've been wanting to do in that similar vein, but also showcase the talent that we was with us at the time. And so that's the history of that song. So really just a fun excuse to make more music, really.
And I remember recording it. It was just a one take for me. I I listened to it a couple times and I just sat down and recorded it. So
Yep.
That was all natural, as they say.
Yes. So I think after that is Away with the Atheists. So Away with the Atheists is about a man named Polycarp, who was a bishop of a church in Ephesus back around the second century. And we go into the story of he's talked about in a lot of church history and things like that. And really, it's so the quote the title Away with the Atheist is a quote that he said when they took him. They used to take the Christians out in the arena and they'd burn them at the stake or feed them to the lions and things like that. And they'd go out, deny Jesus, and they'd say no, and they'd call the Christians atheists back then because they didn't believe in the Roman gods. And so they told him, say away with the atheists, say away about the Christians. He turned around in that entire stadium, this old man by himself, and pointed at the crowd like this and said, away with the atheists. And to me, talk about like the metal ethos that we have now, like standing up for what you believe and not letting anybody run you over, that metalheads have. Yep. That's like, how much more metal is that? You're standing in front where they're going to murder you, burn you at the stake. I don't care. I'm standing my ground right here. 85 years old.
Yeah, he had that additional quote. He's like, 86 years I've served, I've served Jesus Christ, and he's never once failed me. So why would I give up now? And then that was moments before he was burned at the stake.
Well, they tried to burn him,
but they didn't. Oh yeah, that's the crazy part of the story. They tried to burn him, and he didn't die from the flames, so they had to, take care of him another means. Yeah.
So that's one, and that's what is an interesting thing for the title of the song, because people would see that, and they're going to be like, oh, it's a Christians trying to be whatever. No, it's a quote from history, from a history book, man, and that's go back and read it. It's right there. You can read it for yourself. That's where the title of the song and the idea comes from. So
that was my biggest concern naming it that. I'll be real. I'm like, they're gonna think we're just some edgy Christian band.
It's all right. Listen, dude, it's you're gonna be fine, because like I'm just gonna say to Logan's comment where he's like, go back and read. It's in a history book. Dude, snowflakes don't read. They don't know how.
Oh, I know. I know. And that's what's the fun part about it, because I know
the ones that do know how to read, when they pick up a history book, they're like, they get very offended, and it's like, the history book's got to be canceled. That's their,
that's true.
This is the modern day cult crusade. It's
yes.
So I don't know. I say this to everybody. A couple months ago, I was telling Mason this before, and I was also talking to one of my buddies about this the other day. Because we were talking about, all the stupid shit that's been going on in like all different music genres. You see like all the shit that happened with like P. Diddy and all those other kinds of shit. Like you just see all this like debauchery and moral degeneracy that goes on in other genres of music that you don't see as frequently in like the metal community. And if you do, it usually gets taken care of. It's not this thing that's allowed to persist in the community. The community is pretty good at policing itself. But what I was saying is I just a couple weeks ago was able to go see Michael Graves, the former frontman of the Misfits in like the late 90s and early 2000s. And he has been one of these artists that has been quote unquote canceled because of his political views. And he played a show for the Proud Boys once. I don't think that warrants him being called a fascist or anything like that.
No.
So I don't know. The internet people are going to internet people, and there's nothing you can really do to stop that kind of shit. But I always say, like, anybody that wants to like be like, oh man, this band should be canceled, or like, we're going to protest if you allow these people to play here. It's like, I wait and pray for the day. Like, I'm not praying for violence, but I'm praying for these people to actually show up to a metal venue with like, our community and try to start the kinds of shit that they try to start everywhere else. It's like, yes, let me see the steel-toed boot of a metalhead, of a brother in metal, connecting with the teeth of a soy boy snowflake.
Well, John, they would never show up to a show. They'd call.
That's right.
Because you'd have to pay to get in, so
Yeah, they'd call and try and get you kicked off the bill first. So,
we'll burn down the building.
Logan knows what I'm talking about.
I know exactly. I know of what you speak.
I'm trying not to give too much. Oh man.
It's not anything that I'm not used to. We have a local theater here. We had a political panel that was going to come and do like a roundtable discussion at a local theater here in my hometown, and some individuals of we're not going to disclose their political affiliations didn't like that.
Yeah.
And so they told my local theater that, hey, if you do this, we're going to set fire to this 100-year-old theater and burn it to the ground.
I can guess which one you're talking about.
And my local theater here in Pittman, New Jersey, caved, and that shit didn't happen. And
that's sad, because it's like I guess I kind of get it on both sides, because they're sitting there thinking the way things have been, they might actually try and do that, and then they're going to be held responsible. You know what I mean? So it's a tough thing. I get that. That's tough, but
it's just it's just I feel like these people are just going to do this kind of shit no matter what.
Yeah,
and I feel like it's up to people in the metal community to really fight against this kind of shit, because I not only are we probably one of the more wholesome genres of music. I mean, like, yes, we look the scariest, but we're the nicest people you'll ever fucking come across in your life.
Yep.
Our music does, to the untrained ear and to the normies who only listen to Taylor Swift, yes, it does sound like scary Cookie Monster music sometimes. But you know what? We love it, and you can grow to love it. We have, not entry-level positions, but like entry-level bands that we can show you that'll get you into this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, shows in this community are always like a fun time. There's no like where it's like this was a waste of money.
No,
but
no, not at all.
I just, again, like, we're also very passionate people, so it's like I would love to see one of these people like actually show up, like either inside or outside the venue, and try to stir up trouble. I mean, like, we are, we're like a live and let live kind of community, because that's just how we are. We get all of our rage and frustration out in a freaking pit. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But like, God, brother, if you're going to come here and you're going to start your shit and you're going to try to ruin our time. I mean, like, God bless you, buddy.
Oh man.
Well, they've tried to cancel. I mean, and you'll see it every now and then. There was an article going around over the last couple of months about Gen Z trying to cancel Cannibal Corpse.
Oh,
part of me thought that was just clickbait, because I'm like, I'm not hearing anything about this.
It wasn't.
And I'm like, again, yeah, they've tried to do this. They tried canceling Migwa.
I love the one where the woman went to the Jesus Christ, what? I'm gonna forget his name now. God, it's not Michael Ma. It's not Rob Zombie. What's the other guy?
Marilyn Manson.
Yes, went to a Marilyn Manson show, got spit on, and sued. I'm like, you went to a Marilyn Manson show, some freaky shit happened.
Yeah.
And you're suing because some freaky shit happened, because Marilyn Manson apparently spat on her. Marilyn Manson did lose. This is like one of those, my McDonald's coffee was hot situations.
Yeah.
He lost, but at the same time, I'm still sitting here going like, I don't know how you go to one of these shows and you don't expect this kind of thing to happen. Like I would expect something gross like that to happen.
Oh yeah, that's just a like I said, it takes all types. I guess you're going to get those type of people in every situation, and it's unfortunate. And thankfully, for the most part, the metal scene has stayed underground and small enough. And I say thankfully just in this sense that like a lot of these shows, some of the times, can go pretty unnoticed to the larger community where it's not as big of a stink that gets raised. Not all the time, but it's like, a lot of us are friends. We don't all believe the same things, but we're friends, and we come out and let everybody do their thing. This is still America, right? Everybody has the right to express their opinions and beliefs.
Well, see, you're wrong there, though. It's still America for some, not for all, though.
True.
That's true.
I mean, we played in Mexico City a few months back, and I don't know. Fortunately, we were the only English-speaking band, so we were the first. I'm sorry, not only. We were the first, so we're probably okay there.
Oh.
Yeah, that was an amazing experience.
That was a great experience.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to make a joke about that. That was one of the best experiences of my life.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah.
The joke is that I still can't speak Spanish. So
none of us can.
No.
Oh, dude. No hombre?
No hombre.
Well, it's funny because our next song that we were talking about is Port to Flame.
Yes.
And so the funny part is that, we're talking about going to Mexico and stuff. And he knows where I'm going. I can't speak Spanish for a lick,
It's all right. I said that wrong too. It's no hablo, not no hombre.
Yeah. But it's like, I'm going to make this next song Port to Flame. Like, how am I going to say this on stage? And I'm going to say, muy importante es flamo. And it actually translates to like the very important flame. But so it's funny.
Fuego.
Like, yeah. So there you go. It's wrong on so many levels. But I keep saying it. Muy importante es flamo.
Yeah. It's all right, buddy. I sell truck parts, so I like part of the clientele, especially in my area here in New Jersey, is like a lot of these guys come in and like the very first thing that they ask you is, I'll be like, hey buddy, how can I help you? It's like, hablo español, it pequeño,
yeah, like no C, no,
right.
Yeah, or so, I mean, thankfully they could all, no C,
no
C.
Yes.
So thankfully they all could speak English better than we could speak Spanish, and they had translators with us.
Brother,
Brother,
this is the most politically correct Spanish-speaking lesson I've ever gotten here.
They were I will tell you, they were like the nicest people I've met and seen in decades. And it felt like America did 20 to 30 years ago.
That was the best, run show we've ever had. Like, every other show we have is just kind of like, just show up. We'll figure everything out from there. And when we showed up there, they were like, oh, do you guys need water? Do you guys need this? It was, they were super nice. They were all very helpful.
Yes.
Everything ran pretty, it's a metal show. So yes, it ran a half hour to an hour late, but whatever.
Oh yeah. It was a great time.
It was great.
But Port to Flame, I think that's
yes, that's the last one.
Yeah, but that's your time to discuss that song. We were going back and forth.
Okay. Yeah. The last song on the official listing on the album, or at least of the new songs, is Port to Flame, which we premiered back in September 6th. It was the first single off the album. That song talks about Elijah from the Bible and the prophets of Baal. So,
and for those that don't know, who are the prophets of Baal?
Who are the prophets of Baal? Interesting. This is almost like all these songs have more than one meaning to them. Or perhaps.
Yes,
perhaps. So I mean, so in the history of the album, in the history of the Order, he's like a forerunner. He comes before the founding of the Order, but they would always look back and trace their lineage and history back through that line, and kind of like, a good guy to emulate. And so the prophets of Baal, they're out there and they're fighting, and I can get my God to the prophets of Baal. I can get Baal to bring fire down or whatever. And so they're out there all day cutting themselves, screaming. And Elijah's just sitting there the whole time, like, why? What's Baal doing? Is he in the bathroom? Because he not here he is? He taking a nap, or what? Just ragging on him the whole time. And then so Elijah comes up, does his thing, fire falls from heaven, and then they slaughter.
John Cena music starts playing.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. So, and then they slaughter all the prophets of Baal. Yeah. And that was all with the queen at that time was Jezebel. That's a very name everybody knows colloquially from culture and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So it's a very good way to not just talk about history, but also, history repeats itself. You can put a lot of double meaning in a lot of these songs. At least that's what I do when I write the lyrics. It's not just about that, because it's also looking forward to things now or other times in history, and how everything just keeps in a circle coming back on itself. Mm-hmm. So,
gotcha. Well, guys, it sounds like this is going to be one hell of a fucking album when it's all out and it's all said and done. I mean, like, is the final mix, like, you guys done on? It's done. Fuck yeah.
All right. Is the final.
All right, cool.
We're just sitting around waiting, just like giddy as a schoolgirl, because we can't wait to get this out.
It's been 3 years, dude. Been working on this album forever.
Yeah.
And soon the world will judge it. But hopefully
we welcome it. We welcome
Look, if people are more like me than anybody else, I think it's going to be judged pretty well. I think it's going to be received,
I mean,
strongly.
So far, worst thing we've heard is that, songs might be a little too long, but I don't, that's the worst criticism we've had so far.
These songs are shorter than the last album.
That's what I said. I was just thinking about.
I looked at what was the, hang on.
I think Away with the Atheist is the longest song, and it's 6:20, I think, or 6:25, something like that.
Gentlemen, the last album was an hour and 19 minutes long.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm really sorry. I look at this kind of stuff. Like, this is one of the first things I do now, like as an old man in my at the age of 30, is I go down and I go to how long. It's like, oh, 12 songs. Sweet. I can listen to this. How long is the album? An hour and 19 minutes. I have all of that time, but I don't have time for this.
No, I know how that goes. I've gotten to the point where I appreciate the 30 to 40 minute album that I can listen to if I'm at the gym or on, and digest it all. The only thing is I do miss the really long albums, because that gave me an excuse to sit and be present in that moment, So it's a balance. It is extreme metal. The songs are going to be longer.
Well, that was part of why we went a little shorter. That's with this one. And in part because we want to, at some point, press it to vinyl, that kind of thing. Like, we wanted an album that could fit on a singular vinyl, go for a double or triple at worst. So that was the idea a little bit. That was part of the planning, at least on my end. That's what I was thinking about. But
that's just maturing in the songwriting, figuring out, what can be cut, and the fluff and all that stuff, and just really getting down brass tacks.
Yeah, and I totally get with that. And some of these subgenres of metal, you're gonna have long albums. I mean, look at black metal. Black metal is like a college thesis sometimes, and you gotta be able to, you just gotta be there for it. Before you purchase the album, check the cliff notes, play the preview of one or two of the songs and see what you're getting into. And if you don't like it, move on. That's how, I love melodic black metal. I love Hotter Cutie for the Sky. I mean, that's how I can, I guess, suffer through how long some of their, some of the albums are. And it's just because it's I like the music. It's great. It's stuff that I can stomach for that long. But I would say, like, you know, going back to like my favorite band, which is Iron Maiden. I mean, like their last two albums, The Book of Souls and Senjutsu, everything's a fucking ballad, dude. It's so fucking long. And I'm like, guys, like, I love you, but Jesus Christ, like, can please, like, there's only there's like one song on each album that's like 2 minutes long, and it's like the preview to the album that they released ahead of time.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, this is gonna be great. This album's gonna sound amazing. And then it's like, well, I'll go to when the Book of Souls came out and they released the single Speed of Light. I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. I can't wait. You know, they're back. You know, it's been so long since we've gotten an album from these guys. And then the album comes out, and then like every other song is like 10 to 12 minutes long. And I'm like, guys, no. I don't want Phantom of the Opera 10 times in a row. I can't do it. Like, it's just
one song per lunch break.
Right.
Basically, you know.
One song per my half-hour commute to work. It's great.
Yeah.
I can't do that, guys.
Yeah. Nope. No, I totally get that. It's all like I said, we were aware of that. It's like, so we got to balance that out. How do we keep the songs that we wanted to do, but also get more to the point? And a lot of bands do that. Going studying what they were doing. Also, sometimes you can split the song up into separate tracks. That's what we did on this Archeia. Legendarium is the first track on the album. It's actually a part of Archeia in a live setting, but we did not want people on streaming services to hear this and have to go through a minute and a half of an intro to a song, and they'll skip it. So it's like, let's just cut it right here. Soon as they hit play, it goes right into it. But in a live setting, we get to do the entire thing if we want. You know, it's things like that in a project producing type of way really helps. You got to think about all those things, you know, not just the album, not just streaming, but live, how people are going to receive it. And so you got to give them a reason. You got to give them 5 or 10 seconds. It's unfortunate, but that's how it is now. So you can grab them, you know, that's what you got to do.
Speaking of something you touched upon right there, streaming services. Obviously, if you guys have ever been on my show before, or if you've ever tuned in within like the past 3 years, you'll know how much I fucking hate streaming services with a fucking bleeding passion. Spotify can suck my dick. I want to ask you guys, because I know you guys are, you know, unfortunately have to participate in the terrible organization that is what the kids are now calling exposure for themselves. I just say you're selling yourself out on the corner, but I just, whatever, man, whatever happens here. How are you guys kind of feeling with the new Spotify 1,000 streams per song in order to start getting paid kind of deal that's been taking effect as of the past, the beginning of the year? Or
I don't remember the exact date, but that was around that time.
I remember it started this year. How have you guys been faring with the weird kind of space that is these streaming platforms now?
Well, you want to take that first, Mason?
I'll take it. I mean, I don't think we've gotten a single. I mean, it's not like they're going to pay you a cent anyways for what we're streaming. But yeah, we haven't gotten anything from it. So it is what it is, you know. Spotify is, it feels like the best term you can use is necessary evil if you're actually trying to get anywhere as a band. You know, like I respect the old days of when it was just tape trading and we just went with that and you just found bands through that. Word of mouth to this day is still the best way you can hear about bands. It's still the most effective marketing tool for anything.
Right.
But Spotify nowadays is also an avenue for that. So it's, again, like I mentioned, it's kind of a necessary evil. And most people use it. I mean, I know Logan and I both primarily use Bandcamp, like for all our, you know, for like full album listening. You know, I have Spotify for playlists. As a consumer, I understand it's not like a bad product, but for as an artist, it is not conducive to anything of value, pretty much, apart from that exposure. I mean, I've had this conversation with you before. I was on that one Spotify.
Okay, yep. You were on the Spotify sucks.
I've had problems with it since then. My one of my previous bands had 2 songs of ours removed because they said it was artificial plays or something to that degree.
Well, yeah, did you see sorry to interrupt you. Have you ever watched I guess it's like your follower or your subscriber count or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Have you ever watched that number just randomly fluctuate by not like a couple but like hundreds or like 1,000 or however?
I've never seen it go up that much. Like ours probably goes up, you know, the most I've seen is, I don't know, maybe 10 to 20 at a time. It's like ours is very organic. It's not like
that's good. I've seen a couple where it's been like thousands.
Yeah.
And it's because Spotify is guilty of using bots. They fluff numbers with bots just to, you know.
And then they'll say, screw you for trying to use our bots. That's what happened.
Yep, that's what happened.
That example I was saying, it wasn't like the streams were this astronomical number. It was like 7,000 streams or something like that. It may be at most. That might be overselling it. It wasn't that many streams. But then they told us, hey, you're using artificial streams. It looks like it could have been botted. We submitted a appeal or whatever. They were like, oh, whatever. And then we re-uploaded the songs. Those streams are all still there. They didn't remove it. They didn't take it back down to 0. So it's like all you did was halt the growth it was getting entirely. They just like stalled it out on the spot. So yeah, I could keep going, but it's not my thing. I'm not happy with them. But
if I might offer, if permission to speak freely, Captain.
Yes, go for it.
And offer a slightly contrarian view.
No, maybe. That's fine. I mean,
and okay, so for me personally, you know, the way I look at streaming services now is they are what FM radio used to be in a way. Yeah. So I had one radio station around here growing up that would play metal. And it wasn't even that much metal. And I could get a little bit, and half the time I couldn't hear it. It was staticky. I remember putting in a tape and finally hearing Nookie and Freak on a Leash, and I recorded them, and I had to put my ear up to it so I could hear it. But it's like, so that's how I kind of discovered some of these things. And then I also I remember back in the day, if you wanted to buy an album, as you recall, you had to go to the CD store or the vinyl store, and you had to basically go off of the album cover. The album cover looks cool. I'm going to try this album.
Yep.
It might suck. You know, I might have wasted my money on it, never listened to it again. Morbid Angel, Heretic. So
I have that one.
Yeah. Sorry. But so for me, it is nice as a consumer to be like, I can find these bands that I really like. And also and this might just be me, and I know it's not everybody. If I find a band on Spotify that I really like, I find every possible thing. I'm a super fan. Fractal Gates is one that is I'm like a super fan now as of like over the week, this past week. Just because I'll put it on, all of a sudden I just hear something, I'm like, it just catches it, and I'm following their Instagram, I'm finding their Bandcamp, I'm finding their web shop. So I'm
Google mapping their house.
Yes. Yeah. I know where you are. So if you use it in that avenue, it does, in a way, I have felt like it, to use the word not in a bad sense, but it kind of democratizes the industry a little bit more, to where I would have never thought growing up that I could have had people in Bulgaria hear my music and then they buy an album.
That's fair.
So it's in that way, if it's used well, it can be a good tool, and it can be a tool that people use for a good purpose. Because, but if you follow through with it, if you use it in a way that, like, I intentionally don't want to support the band, I don't want to pay, that type of thing, then it's like a nefarious purpose.
Yeah.
But so I can see both sides of it. I use Spotify a lot. I use YouTube. You know, it's kind of nice. I don't have to wait for once a week to see Headbangers Ball, to hopefully see that one song that I saw 3 weeks ago and I can't remember what it was, that type of thing.
Right.
But I might not be the typical user of it either, so I might not be an authority on that. But I just know when I do it, it usually ends up turning into support, word of mouth,
Right.
buying merchandise, albums, that type of thing. So I use it as a discovery tool to turn into and support the bands and find them, which is nice when you can do that, because it does make an opportunity to get your music out to people that might have never heard it. And the record industry executives, you're not going to sell any money, so we're not going to put you out. You're not going in the magazines. You're not going all the way there.
That's where I was going to go next with this. It's like, I appreciate your opinion. When you say if it's used correctly, is kind of the part where I'm kind of gonna pick at right there. Yes, fine, if used correctly.
Don't worry, we'll never come back on the show ever again.
Right. If used correctly, yes. I mean, these tools are great assets for these bands to get noticed, to get, bigger, and, kind of do the job that FM radio used to do, no longer does, because it has been corporatized to infinity. But that's also where a lot of these streaming platforms are going as well. They're starting to become corporatized to infinity. And you're starting to see more moves based more off of profit than it is. Like, this is the biggest thing that hurts the music scene, not just from artists, but from the labels, the streaming platforms, the outlets. It's the corporatization of art. Art is not something yes, I believe an artist needs to get paid at the end of the day for their art. I get it. I'm not saying that everything that anybody does should be for free. I am not a socialist. I am not a communist. I am not,
hey, comrade.
No comrades here. I don't. The only red I see is the blood of communists. That's it. That's it. Look, if this episode's definitely demonetized. I've never had a monetized episode, but this one's never getting monetized. So fuck it, right?
Yeah.
Fuck it. Let's just go all in. But no, the corporatization of art has definitely been something that I think has hurt the scene more over the years, because you see a lot of these labels and a lot of these radio stations and a lot of these streaming platforms, they are promoting the ones that are the most quote unquote marketable. I went to college for radio, television, and film. And the first Radio 1 course that I took, the professor comes in and he literally sits down. He's like, what is the purpose of radio? Some people say to do the news. Some people say for communication. And he's like, no, the purpose of radio is to make money. And that has been something that has stuck with me my entire life, because I hate it. I when I hear the purpose of something is to make money, I'm like, well, that is hollow. That's void of anything. That's just for and you can't do that with art, because art is just so full of emotion. Art is just so full of feeling that you can't hollow and art do not go together. So if you strictly make art about profit, about monetization, you're going to start getting a lot of bands that all sound the same, because, hey, this is the flavor of the decade that, And you know what? I'm gonna throw metalcore under the fucking bus here. You start getting a lot of bands that sound the fucking same because hey, this is what sells. This is what gets us on the magazine. This is what gets us uh in the good graces of the labels. This is what gets us in the good graces and gets us the interviews on the local radio station. This is what gets us promoted on Spotify.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing, rinse and repeat. This is why you turn on an FM radio show. It doesn't matter what, what area you're in, you're hearing the same bands you were hearing since 2000. It's because that's what sells. That's it. And that's why I stress, go to local venues. I don't care who it is. I don't care if you know the band or not. I don't care if it's a Tuesday night, a Thursday night, or even if it's Friday night. Beats going to the fucking bar because you can get a nice drink from the fucking local venue and you can see a great show.
Yep.
Go support your local artist. Go find out who they are. That's the best way that you're going to be able to see these music. And that's also the best way you're going to keep local venues around. RIP the St. Vitus Bar and Grill that just shut its doors a couple months ago. Yeah, they what is it? The Department of Buildings came in mid show and shut them down. And like a couple months after that, or a couple weeks after that, shuttered them for good. Yeah. It's so the St. Vitus is gone. It's up there in small venue heaven with CBGBs and the rest of them.
All right.
Yeah, RIP, man. But this is it. This is why more people got to start going to their local shows. Stop going and paying $300 for nosebleeds at stadium shows. Start going and checking out bands you've never heard of before, and that's really it, man. It's up to small shows, small venues like not even venues. It's up to small platforms like this, like Metal Incorporated, like Soda Records, like all these guys that I've met, over the years here on Metal for the Masses, and just even people that I don't know of. Like, tune into these platforms. You'll find more artists such as you guys, Symphony of Heaven, and so many others that I've gotten to sit down here and talk to over the years.
Because this is the real thing. This is, like he said, like the word of mouth, where we all have a common interest here, and this music and this art form means a lot to us. And so, but to hopefully not to cut in on anything Mason was going to say, but like you talked about, like the commercialization of art. I was just having this conversation this morning with my wife about, and because it's so obvious, and it's in every industry. I get that. That's commercialism. They find the lowest common denominator, and they find the magic secret formula, and boom, you got NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, 98 Degrees, and all these other things, and then all the Disney artists and all that stuff, and they kept just driving it into the ground,
Yep.
But it wasn't because these artists, they were probably talented in their own right to do some things, but it wasn't because there was heart. The word, the Hebrew word for glory means heavy, if anybody didn't know that. So like it talks about like the glory of God. It's the idea is the heaviness. And you could feel that when we talk about something like heavy metal, something that's heavy. It's real. It's this almost is something that is beyond just the normal existence that you do day to day. Something that's heavy doesn't have to just be metal. And that's what you can find heaviness in any genre. It's a person and an artist who's real, legit, and pouring out their soul, their hard work into something because it means that much to them, and share it. So, it's hard. You don't want to commercialize that or turn it into just a quick hit drug that you just keep shoving it down people's throat till you get all their money, and then you move, and then you kick them to the curb and go get the next one because there's no heart, there's no heaviness to it.
Oh, and that, like, we see that, like you said, like corporatization of art. It's not just music anymore. Film, TV shows, what else? Like literal art. Like these things become so corporatized to where it is a product, not to say like I think like things like this are made to be like they're made to be sold, right?
Right. No matter what, everything is made to be sold.
Exactly. But there's a difference between
the painter paints a painting not only to it convey the emotion that he's having at that time, and that's how he releases it. But the painter also paints the painting to sell the painting to make a living off of his art. That is the goal at the end of the day. Right. But the painter does not paint his emotion. His emotion is not money. His emotion is, this is the emotion that I am feeling at this time. Like the storyteller does not write a story about money. The storyteller writes a story that person, I'll use fucking Tolkien. Tolkien didn't write the Lord of the Rings and the Silmarillion and all of this stuff because he wanted to get paid. Tolkien wrote all of these novels and this story because all of the quote unquote British, fairy tales were all Germanic stories. Nothing was owned by Britain. So he wanted to give Britain, kind of based on his own experiences, not only in life, but also in the wars that he fought in. He wanted to give Britain its own fairy tale, its own story that it could call its own, based upon based upon Britannia and the Anglo-Saxon culture, the people there. That's why it is such a compelling story, and it also ties in a lot of his beliefs, a lot of his feelings about his beliefs in God and his beliefs in right and wrong and his beliefs in everything else. Like, it is a product of himself. It is not a product of pay me. That obviously came. His success was a blessing that came later, but that is not what it was for. His intentions to do that kind of stuff were because he wanted to give his people something that they could call their own. And the same thing with music. The artists that stand the test of time, I mean, like, these guys write this stuff. Like, yeah, I guess getting paid is something in the back of their minds, but it's never something that seems to be at the forefront of artists that do end up lasting and testing this, the tests of time. I
was gonna say, they do it because they have to.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. Like, at the corporatization of art, especially to the degree that it has been hollowed out and ransacked in the 21st century. Even in the late 20th century and even going into the 21st century, it's only gotten worse. And it's not just music. Like Mason said, you watch TV. I can't watch like a modern TV show without some kind of hollowed out fringe narrative that doesn't matter, or something that just doesn't make sense, something that is just a virtue signal getting shoved down somebody's throat. And it's not just like, oh, I don't agree with this, so therefore I hate it. It's like, no, it's like there's no story here other than here's this.
Yeah. And that's why I just go back and watch. I'm watching Home Improvement again. I'm just going back to that. So,
right.
So, but that's what I was going to say, is that the painter paints because the painter doesn't have a choice. He has to get it out. Like, you're going to do it regardless. The musician's going to make music because he has to. And like Tolkien, I always like to say that Tolkien didn't create Middle Earth. Tolkien discovered Middle Earth. There's some art like that transcends time, and almost as if it's given through you. So Mason's disappeared.
Oh,
Mason okay.
Phone's about to die. That's all.
Oh, okay. Yes.
It's okay. He's just getting naked and he doesn't want the internet to see.
But yes,
it's behind the paywall.
Join our Patreon.
Yes. We were looking for more Patreon content.
Right. Symphony of Heaven Patreon. Behind the paywall, you can see the XXX rated Mason exclusively on
XXL.
Right. His only feet account is at
Oh my god, dude! Oh man, I don't even want to make that joke on air.
Don't do it. This has to go on YouTube at the end of the day. Let's just, gentlemen, Gentlemen, this has been great. It's totally it's always a blessing having you guys here on the show talking about the new album. Can't wait for it to come out. Speaking of, when's it coming out? Are you guys doing any kind of special release show or special merch drop? Anything?
Yeah, so it comes out October 25th this year, so that's about 3 weeks from now. Merch drop. Yeah, we are collaborating with the Dark Fit. It's a religious organization that started doing their own merch recently, and it's very quality stuff.
Very quality, very high quality.
That announcement, by the time this airs, it'll be out. Yeah, so should be available for pre-order now.
All right. Hell yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and like I said, they're very. I have a lot of merchandise, a lot of band T-shirts. These are the samples got sent to me to kind of show off some of the nicest, if not the nicest material merchandise band shirts I've ever seen.
They're very quality. They're
yes.
very soft. They're very comfortable.
Yep. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
So if I get a 2X, it's not going to shrink down to an L by the time I throw it in the wash, right?
No, I also have 2XLs and they're very nice. Usually I think I just air dried them, the first time or whatever, but after that it was fine.
Yep. Yeah, that is the rule. Air dry the first time, then you can throw it in the dryer.
Yep.
But yeah, very, very good stuff. And that's really nice that's another leap up that we haven't done before. So it's exciting.
Pre-orders and all the PR on our own. That's been crazy.
Yeah. Yep. That'll have to be another episode at some point. Seriously, because we can give you a lot of insight of what we've learned just as newcomers in the PR industry, I guess you could say.
We're starting. Yeah.
Yeah. Onboarding into that. It's been interesting.
Yes.
Hell yeah. I'm down for it. Whenever you guys want to do something like that, just, I'm just some prick on the internet. I'm always available. So it's just all you got to do is reach out and, depending on the time schedule I have, I'm always down. I'll never say no. So
let's do it.
Heck yeah.
Hell yeah. But for now, gentlemen, thank you for, spending some time talking about this new album that's going to come out. I can't wait to air this one. This one will probably be, airing the week of, since this is 2 weeks. At the time of this recording, it's 2 weeks before the album comes out. So.
And that's where it all went wrong.
Yep.
That's the next Behind the Music episode.
Exactly. It's and at this point in time, the album never aired.
The album
that never was.
The album came out.
Yeah,
right.
I wouldn't surprise me at this point.
Yeah.
So,
oh well.
If everybody could, I want to thank you for having us on very much. And if anybody hears this and sees this before the album is out, the video's out. You can pre-order on Bandcamp. And if you see this after the album's out, you can go on our Bandcamp as well and check out everything. All kinds of, there's a book that goes along with it that comes along in a download with it. All kinds of goodies and an entire universe of lore and history and legend.
Does the book have pictures?
Not yet.
We're getting there.
Yet. Yeah.
But it will, when it's released, have pictures.
Well, it's right now, we set it up as like a PDF download, as a simple, just like you would find a PDF download of a book.
Yeah, comic book will be out in a few years, so it's okay.
Okay. So, okay.
That's a plan. Yep.
And we also do have a Patreon if anyone's interested. Check
that has helped us out quite a bit. You have no idea. It's been very nice.
I love the shameless plug. It's great. PR,
baby.
That's it. PR. That's how they're doing it. They've learned. Just throw it in there.
The worker deserves his wages, and as long as we're doing our part and serving the people in the best way we can, I think it's a legit thing.
Hell yeah. So, like Logan said, if you guys are tuned into this and it's before the album drops on October 25th, right?
Yes.
Yep.
If it's before October 25th and you're listening to this, go pre-order, go send money to their Patreon. If it's after, buy the fucking album and send these motherfuckers some money.
Woo! Thank you.
Guys, great having you. Hope to do this again.
Yes, thank you very much, man. We appreciate it very much.
I just did the service industry thing. Whoops.
Ah, it's okay.